other pop culture sheet I wanted to take a look at. That guy being mentor. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, don't know if you saw this clip, but this is going to lead into the first conversation that we're having tonight, and it is about men and disordered eating, which I have talked about more than once. The rising issue with disordered eating and men who have disordered eating, but it is not considered disordered eating because disordered eating has long been considered a women's issue. And yes, still the majority of those who have eating disorders are women. And we've talked about that at length, but it is absolutely a men's issue. It's a person issue. And it's concerning because eating disorders are in men on the rise.
How long have you been sober now?
And I think because of fitness culture and the rise of fitness culture with all these influencers and the manosphere and these adjacent communities that are very, very focused on having 0% body fat and looking a certain way in order to be masculine in this world, it is resulting in that plus, of course, like trauma and just life struggles is resulting in a lot of men who have, like, in my opinion, clear disordered eating. And it's pretty crazy that it's not considered as such. Like, so many men I know who have body dysmorphia, who have such an unhealthy relationship with food, with their bodies. Patriarchy is bad for all of us. That is true. All right, here is the clip. I will tell you, it's pretty intense. Unfortunately, it's on this podcast. I do wish KJ Appa from Riverdale was talking about this subject on a different podcast, perhaps.
I've been sober a year and a half.
Okay, perfect. So you have all the mana back.
But it's been like 6 years, man.
Of just off and on, yeah.
anything that makes me feel good, I will abuse. It's something that I've learned about myself. I mean, even eating. My relationship with eating is, especially on that show, was bad. This one time I was quarantining. I was in a house with 2 of my friends on the show. And I was trying to be sober, and not, smoke weed or anything. And I remember I was so hungry one. I was also trying to lose a lot of weight because I was going back to work. And when I'm on a vibe of I'm trying to get into shape, I'm like beast mode. I'm like obsessed about it.
Yeah, you're locked in.
And so, which then also makes me do crazy shit.
Yeah.
But I ordered all of this McDonald's. And I ordered like 3 Big Macs, like a bunch of McNuggets and stuff, and fries, milkshake. And I ordered it, it's like 2 a.m. I'm like about to beast mode this thing. And I slammed like half of it. And immediately it's like,
the regret just hits him.
why did I do that?
Do you feel it in your stomach?
I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? I piss on the rest of the food.
I mean, you're not going to eat it. I mean,
Dude, I took it outside.
That's a good way
I
to
took
do
it outside. I pissed all over it.
I mean, look, I get that this podcast is light vibes. This is Dylan Sprouse and Brendan Columbus's Wild Men podcast. And if you don't think about it any deeper, then I don't know, somebody talking about pissing on food. Sure, I guess something to giggle over, but it's really serious. Like, that is really horrifying. And I just think this is not the proper setting for this conversation, although I do appreciate that KJ Appa has brought this up and is being honest about his relationship with food and with his body and with himself. Like, this is very, very serious.
You would have gone through the trash?
I go throw up all the food that I ate.
You're like, now it tastes like piss.
I was gnarly, dude. I was gnarly. Thankfully, I'm,
No, hey, that's honestly.
Yeah, I'm not done.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
I go back outside about 20 minutes later after lying there in bed being like, I'm hungry again because all the food is now out of my body.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get hungry again really quickly.
You didn't eat the piss food, did you?
I went downstairs. I go outside. It's there, right? And I start eating around the piss. I ate the rest of the food and left the soaking piss food there.
Which was the shit you didn't piss on?
I could have just ordered more food.
You
know what I mean?
got more food.
Yeah, I mean, that is fucking intense. And he's describing bulimia and when you throw up, what happens to your body and how it does not stop you from wanting to eat. Like your body is craving nutrients, it's craving food, and just how much it fucks with your brain chemistry as well. Yeah, he's describing pissing on food and then after he threw up what he had eaten, going and picking around the food that he had pissed on. Also, when you're starving yourself, you're starving your brain, you aren't making good decisions and you're going out of your mind a bit. Yes. It is it's a real and serious issue.
I needed to have it right now.
Okay, so that's the clip. KJ Apa and other men are speaking candidly about disordered eating. It's time to listen. Eating disorders have often been erroneously understood as a woman's issue, one of the many statistical misconceptions that have plagued the history of disordered eating since the term anorexia nervosa was first coined in 1873 by Queen Victoria's personal physician, Sir William Gall. While it's still true that a majority of people with eating disorders are female, a growing number of boys, men, and gender nonconforming individuals are living with disordered eating, with the National Eating Disorders Association estimating that about 1 in 3 people struggle with an eating disorder as male. So I do think in this clip, one, because this is an issue that has seen disordered eating is seen as something that is a woman's issue, they're not talking about it as an issue that's deserving of like gravitas and seriousness, but also because they're Hollywood actors and this is such a normal environment and one that is increasingly affecting men in the way that the male body type in Hollywood has changed, how so many men like from what's his name from It's Always Sunny, Mac, to sorry, I cannot think of any names today, to Kumail, guys who in the past were not like big action stars who maybe needed to be a little bit more rugged looking, a little bit more buff, talking about their very intense regimens. I remember a show called Everwood. That was the first time I saw a man having an eating disorder. And I think, oh yeah, I guess men also. Right. Because for men, if they acknowledge, if it's acknowledged that they have an eating disorder, if it's openly being talked about, there's the shame around it because of the shame around disordered eating, but also because of it being something that women struggle with. Oh, dude, that's a woman thing. You don't have an eating disorder. You're just, you're just trying to get fit. You're just taking care of your body. That's a woman's problem. Appa brought his perspective to this issue recently, describing the depths to which his eating disorder and a history of substance abuse took him in a Tuesday appearance on Dylan Sprouse and Brendan Columbus's Wild Men podcast. Appa, who says he's been sober for over a year, told Sprouse and Columbus, "Anything that makes me feel good, I will abuse. It's something that I've learned about myself, even eating. My relationship with eating, especially on that show, was bad." Appa was candid about his memories of binging and purging on the set of Riverdale, recalling how he ordered a large amount of food from McDonald's and urinated on it in an attempt to leave it unfinished, and ultimately being unable to resist. I go throw up all the food that I ate. I go back outside about 20 minutes later after lying there in bed being like, I'm hungry again because all the food is now out of my body. I went downstairs, I go outside and it's there, right? I start eating around the piss. I ate the rest of the food and left the soaking piss food there. It might feel shocking to hear a Hollywood star be so open about the visceral pain and difficulty of his eating disorder, particularly in the age of a thin is in mentality and the ever-present GLP-1 discourse, which has perhaps ironically made honesty about desiring thinness more difficult than ever to discuss honestly. Appa's story matters hugely, though, not just because of his fame or his willingness to describe the lowest points of his disordered eating experience, but because we are so unused to hearing men be so blunt about their difficulties with compulsive behavior around food. You're just locking in, brother. I feel disgusted with myself and start throwing food away. Please leave me alone with this locking in stuff. Yeah, it's like time to lock in, or other language that's used in these really like fitness spaces. I don't know, shit about macros, all that. The experience of dealing with stigma and incorrect assumptions about disordered eating certainly isn't unique to men, but given that much of the still incomplete and often lacking language that we've developed to talk about eating disorders tends to presume a patient who is female, cisgender, white, and financially stable. Men, particularly men of color and LGBTQ plus men, often find themselves without tangible examples of their experience to relate to. A 2020 National Institutes of Health study noted that prevalence rates for male ED cited in much of the recent history of research is a gross underestimate. In other words, how are you supposed to heal from an eating disorder or even recognize that you have one if you're deeply unused to seeing people who look like you model their experiences of ED recovery? Of course, focusing on eating disorder narratives like Appa's and those bravely shared by other famous men, including Zayn Malik and Ed Sheeran, doesn't mean we should automatically privilege them above the experiences of women and gender nonconforming people. There's still so much work that needs to be done in terms of understanding the sad truth that people of all gender identities, races, ethnicities, and sexual orientations can and do suffer from disordered eating. But the first step in our collective cultural work toward healing might just be to uplift and celebrate all stories of eating disorder recovery, whether or not they fit with our preconceived notions about who is allowed to struggle with food and body image. We are seeing this men thinness pushed in the fashion world too. This last Men's Paris Fashion Week has really revealed how much the industry is turning back to the super thin look. I think a lot of the Prada show is the main example. Oh, absolutely. There's been a reemergence of like ultra thin culture, and it just looks differently and sounds differently depending on how we're talking about women or how we're talking about men. But I look at the changes in Hollywood, which is obviously an industry where standards are extremely rigorous and very narrow, always has been, but to see the expectations now, which like they've always been that for women, don't get me wrong, but now something I've noticed is how many men are getting, say, plastic surgery or getting fillers and Botox. And the conversation around Ryan Gosling when he had what appeared to be filler in his face. I think this was last year, maybe, when people were talking about that. And now, you know, I've seen conversation around Chris Evans and the new Doomsday trailer. And this is related. The way that aesthetics and certain, like a very particular aesthetic and particular body type is being pushed now culturally is absolutely related to the fascist threat that has been rising. And I think the emphasis on, you know, seeing a reemerging emphasis on whiteness, on thinness, on youth, on basically being so preoccupied with achieving and maintaining an aesthetic in order to keep people distracted and preoccupied, and also to keep them unhealthy. It's the push to have, it's also like the reduction in education related to that, to have uneducated, unhealthy people. Men are now under the same scrutiny than women have been. I think it's an expression of Loss of social control. So the turn was that they can control one of the main aspects being of your body, optimization of every aspect of society and the self. I would say uh, obviously there are standards that are pushed on women and the very narrow definition of what femininity is, what women are, how they should be. That is still so unbelievably oppressive. But I think overall, looking at how this is affecting everyone in society, and I think this gym bro shit is really concerning. I think seeing so many men who are looking for a sense of control via these spaces that emphasize like extreme fitness and dieting culture. I think it's a way for people to feel like they have a sense of purpose, that they have some control over their lives. It's not just manosphere shit, right? It's not just looks maxing incel culture. If you look this way, then you'll get with women. It's more than that. Like, I know a lot of men who are not manosphere bros. Okay, plenty of men in my life who display concerning behavior when it comes to eating and fitness. Men justify their EDs with science, saying it's health and macros. Right. And really, it's disordered eating.
It would be for every 10 girls, there would be a boy. Now it's for every 5 girls, there's a boy.
Do you think that eating disorders within men...
And what happens then when there's a rise, when it seems as if it's everywhere, it puts pressure on people who are not conforming to that, right? The idea being, too, as fascism rises, that there is a conformity that is pushed and that is then expected. And there is not room for individuality. There is not room for a spectrum of identities, of body types. There is one way that people must be. And if you are not adhering to that, then you are falling outside of what are the standards being set and what's being normalized. I think you can track your macros. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like if you're into fitness or if you're into, healthy eating, that it's automatically a disorder. I want to be very clear, but I'm talking about how there is so much disordered eating and unhealthy standards and lifestyles that are being disguised, that are not being openly addressed as problematic. Or like, here is when you look at the line between what is a healthy relationship, what are healthy behaviors, and then what crosses into unhealthy, it feels as if that line is very thin. And a lot of people do cross over into the unhealthy, but it's encouraged. Like it's being normalized. It's something that is not being called out as unhealthy behaviors. Celebrated. Yep.
Is on the rise, or is it something we're now paying more?
Everything's about how obsessive you are about it. There's casually building well-balanced meals, and then there's the compulsion to track them, and you feel awful if you don't. Yes, there is. It's the obsessiveness over it and how quickly that can take over your life. Like how quickly it becomes the dominant thing always. And then it can lead to other unhealthy behaviors as well. Fitness and healthy eating compared to disordered eating is a lot like alcohol consumption. What your actual doctor would say is not healthy as far as consuming alcohol is probably normal to people around you. Oh yeah. I think the other problem is, well, a lot of people get their advice from fitness influencers who maybe use language that sounds scientifically based, but it's actually not. And I'm not saying that doctors are always getting it right or that they do not have their own biases. But there is so much dog shit info that is being pushed by a lot of influencer, gym culture bros, all that. And they make it seem as if they are health professionals, but they're not. Understanding that also when you're an influencer, you have specific goals in mind. And for a lot of influencers as well, they're kind of bullshitting, okay? When they do these, like, look at my fitness journey, they're not including everything in that. When they show you a before and after, it's leaving out key details. So please always remember that influencers have a specific job. They are influencing. They are not professional, like they're not health and science professionals. Sometimes there's like a crossover, okay, whatever. But even still, when they lean more into the influencer part of their career, they're selling stuff. They're selling a product, they're selling a lifestyle, they're selling themselves as the person you should listen to on all things, that you should consume their content on. So just always please exercise caution when getting advice from fitness influencers.
More attention to.
I would think it's both.
Data shows a spike in youth eating disorders at the beginning of the pandemic when hospitalizations increased.
How do eating disorders with men, young men, manifest themselves either similarly or different to young women?
I think that many pediatricians, family doctors, internal medicine doctors won't recognize it in men, young adults as early as they do in females. And so it goes unnoticed for a really long time, and the malnutrition sets in and the brain becomes very disordered and very malnourished.
Gibson was one of those patients.
I looked sick, not like how a healthy person should look.
But somehow when you looked in the mirror at that moment,
I looked fat when I looked in the mirror. I saw that
Space
chubby
Cadet,
12-year-old
thank you for the
kid,
24 months. Shred, thank you for
staring back at
31.
me.
how common is it to see young men who want to be really skinny like Gibson?
It's becoming more and more common. I always look at pre-COVID and post-COVID because I think that was a time of our lives where boys who were used to being outside and
the other thing too, I'm just going to use a personal example from my life. I have always had to tell people around me that I do not base my health, how healthy I am, how in shape I am, off of the weight on the scale, whether it's changing, going up or going down. I started my strength training, I restarted my fitness journey back in March. When I weighed in, I was 168, 169 pounds. Okay. It is almost August. So March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. Do you know what the weight on the scale is? 169 pounds. And that is one thing I have tried. If I'm being completely transparent, yeah, also nice. I've had to tell Will, I'm like, hey, I actually don't like to do weigh-ins because that is not a measure of where my body is at. And I learned a long time ago not to judge myself based on the scale because in 8th grade, I weighed 155 pounds, but I was athletic as hell. Like I have a naturally muscular body, and especially from my dad's side, like just density, like we're very dense and muscle is very heavy. So if I were to judge my progress based on how the scale looked, then I would give up. I would feel horrible about myself. I'd be like, you're telling me in 5 months the number has not changed at all? I'm almost 170 pounds. And whenever I bring that up, especially to men, they'll react in shock. They're like, you don't look 170 pounds. I'm like, because you don't know what that looks like. In the same way with the fucking aging conversation of what does it mean to look your age or to not look your age. Same with how your weight manifests. It's always funny to me to get the response of shock and then the immediate like attempt at a compliment, but I don't need that because I don't consider the weight on the scale to be bad. It's not bad. Now, everybody's body is different, to be clear, but this is what I mean by like, if I just listened to fitness people around me and did what they thought or how they view things, then I would probably have a much more unhealthy relationship with the fact that I weigh almost 170 pounds. And a lot of people will use, I think, the number on the scale as an indication of how healthy they are or how in shape they are, right? I've never been somebody who can really lose weight as far as number going down on the scale. Are you tall? I'm close to 5'9", so I'm tall. Like I am tall, but still, there are a lot of people who are my height that are not 169 pounds, but that's my body. I'm glad you have a healthy relationship with exercise for whatever it's worth. It's important. It's been a journey though. Let me tell you, it's been a journey. I absolutely was much harsher to myself when I was in my 20s, and I was even skinnier than I am now because I had a less healthy relationship with substances, with food, and with my body and myself. And of course, I would still think I was not good enough, especially when I moved to Los Angeles and was going on auditions and feeling like I was the biggest person on set and being told I was big. Anyway, I just wanted to share my own personal anecdote to remind y'all that there is not one way here. And really, you should not listen to what people on the internet are saying.
Used to doing sports and used to running around with a group of friends. We're suddenly home, and I think much more on social media than ever before.
Online communities celebrating anorexia and other eating disorders have been around practically as long as the internet. But kids and young adults are spending more time online than ever, scrolling apps like TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit, which for many means more exposure to accounts promoting dieting and supplements and feeds filled with heavily edited bodies.
You got 3 months until summer.
As a woman who's weighed 105 to 200 at one point, it's insane how people truly treat you different when you're thin. Oh, yes. I have a lot of people in my life who have expressed the exact same thing, where losing weight is one of the biggest changes, will result in one of the biggest changes as far as how people treat you, because our society is so fucking fat phobic. It's so fat phobic. I mean, people are taking GLP-1s to lose 10 pounds. Every bride I know who's a healthy weight, right? They are fine, are taking Ozempic or GLP-1s to lose even more weight, to be like thin, where their bones are showing for their weddings.
Yeah, right there. Starve Max.
Start with just cutting out one meal from your diet.
Yeah, I mean, he's a model, but obviously incredibly thin. People idolize him.
How to start looks
Dr. Barr
maxing.
helped Gibson stick to a treatment program that with time helped him heal and rethink his relationship with food.
I would definitely say I'm 100% improved, but it's honestly an ongoing struggle.
Today, Gibson is able to enjoy the things he loves.
Every bride I know, exactly like every woman who's had a baby, every one of my woman friends who's had a baby, immediately trying to lose the weight and being so hard on themselves and feeling as if they're not getting their abs back on a timely enough, on a fast enough timeline.
Loves like skateboarding and plan for his future, going to college and designing a clothing brand. He says he's sharing his story to show other boys and young men they're not alone.
You can't really find stuff about men with eating disorders, and it almost feels kind of shameful to talk about, you know? People look at you differently. I'm hoping to shed some light and maybe give people like the strength to like come out and like talk about it.
And guys, we should say social media apps have taken some steps to rein in harmful content. For instance,
Okay, let me watch this.
The hardest part about it was actually chewing it all. So I would just put it into a blender, blend it all up, and just drink chicken. Isn't that good?
See all those videos online of celebrities saying that they eat chicken and rice all the time?
You have to eat like these just bland, naked pieces of chicken and rice.
Brown rice, grilled chicken, broccoli.
Or chicken and broccoli?
Chicken breast and broccoli and training.
I never thought at the time there was something wrong with me. I always thought I want to be bigger. I want to be bigger.
And eat boiled chicken breast every 2 hours, which is not very good.
And the other thing too, with this culture of honesty and authenticity, please know there is so much that's being left out. Okay. It's not just with influencers. They're all taking fucking steroids. All right. They are lying. This is not just, oh, I eat chicken and rice and lift weights in the gym. But even with people knowing that or going, okay, I'm aware of that being the case, it still has the effect. Like, it doesn't change, though, how that is influencing hordes of people. You know? But that's there is so much that is not actually being said, even with this idea that people are talking about things more openly. Isn't it great news that the FDA just approved a move to make peptides easier to produce and sell in the US? Yeah, great.
But that's how you get that body.
Just seeing that and then I'm taking it in so simply, like all I need to do is just eat chicken and rice. All right, cool, I'll do it. And I took that to the extreme, to the
Don't
point
they
where
also
like
dehydrate
force
for
feeding
shirtless
yourself and
teens?
taking
Yes.
food like a pill. Yeah, not very good.
When it comes to eating disorders, we usually think about girls and women. It's something we see in pop culture all the time.
I didn't eat for 3 days so I could be lovely.
But studies have found nearly a third of people diagnosed with eating disorders are actually boys and men.
Had you ever heard of a boy with an eating disorder?
I thought it was just a girl thing.
Ryan started restricting his eating in 8th grade. He asked us not to use his last name to protect his privacy. He's 17 now.
I would ask my friends, have I changed? What do I look like now? And I would look for them to, use skinny as an adjective. And I do it pretty often. Anytime I was feeling like, especially like bigger.
Ryan and Nathan live on opposite coasts, but they've both struggled with their body image since childhood.
4 times a day, I would have 2 chicken thighs and 3 cups of rice.
Nathan Wilson is 22 and got obsessed with powerlifting and building muscle a few years ago, and he put himself on a strict diet.
I committed every single day to eating all of that food. I was like extremely nutrient deprived because I only ate chicken and rice. If I eat and then I throw up, oh no, I'm down this many calories. So then you go get like a tub of ice cream or something, and then you eat that to replace it. I wasn't eating for enjoyment, I was eating to accomplish a goal.
3, 2. Scuba Steve, thank you for the prime. Offline Memories, thank you for 42.
That like heroic male archetype. Like the reason they chose him is because he's like the most wholesome, honest dude. He's just not big, so they're making him big. All I wanted was just like to be overnight, go into a chamber like this, and then in 30 seconds you are a different human.
How do you feel?
Taller.
Oh, you look taller.
Yeah, I was like 13 when this movie came out. Obviously, it's just unrealistic and it doesn't work like that, and I know that now, but still looks great. Still a cool scene.
If you think about...
Yeah, and then we got the fucking Marvelification across the industry, from not just like budgets of movies and what gets a theatrical release, but the way that actors are expected to look. I cannot get over... One story that sticks in my mind was listening to Jonathan Bailey talk about his very extreme regimen for Jurassic Park, where he's supposed to be playing a nerd, where it's like, okay, I remember this archetype. I remember the nerd archetype. I don't remember him being like glistening abs with a perfect light to medium tan and white veneers.
The original Batman and Superman actor.
People don't get that the actors talking about eating like this to gain muscles for roles, do it with a personal trainer and personal meal prepper, and that they know that it's a means to an end for a set amount of time for a role. I'm also guessing that big actors like the ones we saw of Sports System that would put a shrink on the case if it got out of hand. I don't know about that last part, but yeah, that's the other thing. It's like for rich people and for celebrities who are also rich people, they have people, they have teams to aid in their extreme fitness, weight loss journey in preparation for a role. But yes, there's also the dehydrating right before a scene so that they get really sucked in. But it's now part of the job. Yeah, it's now part of the job to bulk up or lose weight. Or
It's like Adam West for Batman, and you think about the Marvel superheroes that are portrayed now in Hollywood. They're like really big and bulky, much more muscular, and there have actually been studies that have looked at trends in male action figures over time and have found that even if you look at the Batman action figure from 30 years ago, the typical action figures that boys play with today are significantly more muscular than they were decades ago.
Dr. Jason Nagata's an eating disorder specialist at UCSF. He's been pushing for more research in the area that focuses on guys. He says eating disorders can present in many different ways in boys and men, from the guys who want to look lean and then to the ones who want to bulk up.
do you think a big factor is that actors that don't have access to all that stuff suddenly can get a nutritionist, personal trainer that maybe gives them a little shot of something? I think the changing of tax brackets must play a role to also want to stay in that upper high. Actors that don't have access to that stuff. If you're being cast in a big budgeted film like a Marvel movie, it's part of the job requirement. So yeah, they have people who are able to do all sorts of things in order to help them achieve the look. But mostly what we're talking about here are the changing cultural standards and how the like hyper muscular, emphasis on like 0% body fat has played a role. You think Disney's asking him to get ripped for a nerd role? Either that, or that's just what the standard is now. Whether it's like actually required or it is happening because of the shifting cultural standards towards that body type. The guy who plays Sanji in One Piece also did a great interview on this, describing the pressure to do these things, being like, imagine being told you're going to be seen with your shirt off in front of billions of people and what that does to your brain. And he's right. Yes. And then, of course, the internet and the public playing a role in this, where we also normalize these standards. And so the pressure is immense to now look like Thor, even if you're not playing Thor, and even when that's not even what superheroes used to look like.
More recent.
When you look at older superhero media, they use the example there, but how much has changed?
Diagnosis is called muscle dysmorphia, more colloquially known as bigorexia or reverse anorexia. And that's when somebody is trying to become big or bulk up, and they may actually view themselves as being puny or tiny, even if they objectively are.
Kumail literally said Marvel didn't ask him to get buff for the role. He did it because that was the expectation now. Yeah. Because I think also for legal purposes, they might get in trouble on a film set if they say you are legally required to do this, but that's the expectation. Those are the now standards for how you need to look.
Muscular or large.
The body dysmorphia one, you get out of the shower and you spend a couple minutes going through all your poses and like looking at everything like, oh, do my shoulders look bigger yet? Nah. And it's like, oh, does my back look? Oh, no. And I don't want to say that I've struggled with something that I haven't been diagnosed with. But for years, I stand in the mirror and I look at myself longer, and then I go through poses. I always try to go to the gym, and I'll go in the locker room, wait for no one to be there, and I'll take my shirt off and I'll look at myself, see what I look like with the pump, see if I look any better. And it's an obsession. It would be hard for me to say I had an eating disorder, but I definitely had something in my brain that was like telling me I needed to do this in an unhealthy way.
When did you think, okay, maybe it can apply to boys too, to me?
Wouldn't be until I started treatment and they diagnosed me with it. They put me in a house with people who also had one. I don't think it was until then that I even realized there were other boys who had this issue.
Ryan checked into Newport Healthcare, a mental health treatment center, last year. He was diagnosed with several issues, including an eating disorder.
Did it make it harder to get help since you didn't even really think it was something that could apply to you as a boy?
Yeah, there's actually like a lot of mental health programs for people with eating disorders, but they're exclusive to girls.
But cases like Ryan's are rare. Male patients are severely underdiagnosed when it comes to eating disorders.
One issue with the misdiagnosis or underdiagnosis of boys is that 99% of the research up until now has focused on female samples.
Up until 2020, you had to miss at least 3 periods to be diagnosed with anorexia nervosa.
I think that because of the stereotype that eating disorders primarily affect girls and women, the boys that we typically see have been suffering for months, if not years, and they have delays in diagnosis and treatment. So actually half of the boys that we see in our clinic are sick enough that they actually have to be hospitalized when we see them.
What age is this?
8th grade, so I would have been 13.
And how are you doing?
Yeah, it's also the fact that performance enhancement drugs are so much more accessible now, and that the just culture around using these, or the culture of this body type, which then leads this to take over their entire life. And then that's when it becomes a problem, when it takes over your entire life. And when you start also ripping supplements and substances to try and achieve a body type past what is like genetically even possible via just normal kind of working out.
At this point?
At this point, I was doing wrestling, so I was thinking about eating.
Men need to get out of this constant state of mind where they're in constant competition with an opponent that doesn't exist, and often a partner they do not have to impress. So many of these battles are truly with just themselves. It's also hard to get people away from these really unhealthy behaviors when this is the only form of control they feel that they have, and when the emphasis is being placed on fitness as a way to have ownership over your life. and the competitiveness being a big problem, but really the preaching of extreme fitness culture as a way to prove value in this world, as a way to like have value.
Every day.
Del,
every
thank you
meal
for the tier
pretty
one.
much before and after. Either like guilt or, you know, dreading a meal. Like that's when I started to restrict, was around 8th grade.
And then this here is when?
Freshman year.
So what about would you say is the difference, the time difference between these two?
Probably almost exactly a year.
A year. Wow.
Yeah.
You're a lot thinner.
Yeah.
Do you see that now?
Yeah, I mean now I can see it, but in the moment I felt like I looked like that even when I was like that.
Unfortunately, over 10% of young men with eating disorders will eventually die from the condition.
I mean, I'm not exaggerating or being hyperbolic or making shit up when I say that body types are directly tied, and the culture around body types and fitness is tied to politics. So, for example, in the 60s and the 70s, there was a lot of the kind of androgynous, slim male body type that was seen as that was ideal, right? Because buff bodies were viewed as very militaristic, and this was a period where there was a lot of protesting against U.S. wars, say in Vietnam, for example, and so muscular body types were associated with the military, which people were protesting against. And then in the 80s, you had political figures like Ronald Reagan come in, and we saw a rise in the 80s action hero, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, the Sylvester Stallones, and it was this very hyper masculine, very militaristic, like extreme big muscles and strength above all else. Vio, thank you so much for the raid. What's up, everybody? Also, mustaches heavily associated with military as well. Yeah. Welcome in, everybody. We are talking about eating disorders affecting men, because they absolutely do. And this conversation started from a clip that we watched of KJ Apa of Riverdale talking about how he was struggling so much. You know what? I'm waiting for that Riverdale documentary to come out, because there is so much fucking shit that went down on that set. Give me the documentary that exposes it all. But yeah, he was talking about how he was really struggling with substance abuse issues and eating disorders. And one instance he shared was when he ordered a bunch of McDonald's, I think, and then ate a bunch, pissed on the rest of it, then threw up what he had eaten, and then was hungry, and he went in search of the food that he had pissed on, and then picked around the pieces that didn't have his pee, and then ate it. Like he was being very honest and open about what he went through. And unfortunately, I don't think it was the right setting to have this conversation, but that's why we're having it here. Then in the 90s, there was a swing backlash against the 80s aesthetics. Yes. So absolutely, we can look at how the idealized body image, or what is normalized and what is acceptable, and tie that to what is happening in our politics.
And so it's extreme.
A big part of the early Zionist movement was the idea of muscular Judaism propped by Max Nordau that was all about how the old Jew was weak and small, and that's why they experienced genocide. So the new Jew needs to be muscular and militaristic and hypermasculine. Things like that are evident in so many forms of fascism. Abso-fucking-lutely. There was the messaging that was being pushed by Zionists after World War II and pre-setting up Israel, that Jews were a victim of the Holocaust because they had been weak. And so the idea that Jews could never be weak again, and that didn't mean just via the setting up of Israel on Palestinian land to have an ethno-state that would provide them hegemonic power in this world, but also everything in culture, right? This very these very rigid standards for what it meant to be strong. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, I don't know why you're popping off at me. Can you calm down? You did not cover substance misuse stuff, which included Dylan's spouse punching in the face. You only briefly covered the ED stuff, then moved on from him because he was laughing with people he was comfortable with. I don't know why you're mad. This is you are upset. You're upset at the wrong person. I truly don't know why you're popping off like this, writing the same message over and over again. It's what happened. What the fuck are you talking about? Please take a break. Please take a break or I'm going to have to time you out because you are misfiring here. It was a 2-minute clip. The focus on the clip being that he was struggling with a lot of issues on Riverdale. And he specifically talked about the eating disorder that he struggled with and how he peed on his food. And so I don't know if you don't know how I do things on stream here, but usually I will see a clip like that and then that opens up a wider conversation. And so the purpose of this conversation right now is talking about male eating disorders, which are on the rise. I don't know why you are so upset. Just take a chill pill. And yes, eating disorders are connected to other substance abuse issues. KJ Apa was struggling with a lot of issues when he was acting on Riverdale. But the focus of that clip was him talking specifically about his struggle with bulimia. We're speaking in general, and that clip happened to be the entry point because of how it was laughed off. Like, how many times have I mentioned the point that I wish it had not been in that setting because it was not treated seriously? That it was being laughed at because, one, I think it's an unserious podcast. I think it's obviously just Dylan and Brandon, and they bring on their friends and they chat about whatever. And two, because eating disorders in men are not seen as an issue, are not taken seriously because disordered eating is viewed as a woman's issue, as something that affects girls and women.
Extremely important that we identify them early and get them treatment.
Ryan completed a 60-day inpatient program last May.
As a young boy, you want to be really masculine and you don't want to show any weakness. But really what makes you strong is realizing your own weaknesses and fighting them. And if that has to be eating, you have to recognize it first, and then you have to fight it, rather than let it consume you.
I just did want to be bigger, and I felt small a lot, even at times when people were telling me that I'm big, and even at times when I was, lifting the most amount of weight that I could, and all these things, I still felt small. I do feel like I'm in a better place. One, therapy helped. I dealt with a lot of those kind of mental issues that I think were behind what I was dealing with.
Starry Night, thank you, Tier 1
now I'm at a point where I like my diet. I enjoy what I eat. I feel good. All the cues to me that I'm okay are there. I have good sleep. My skin is clear, but I still feel small. I'll probably over the next year, the course of this year.
I mean, it's a lifelong struggle, and it's because of the root issues of disordered eating. So unfortunately, it's not something that just will go away overnight upon acknowledging that you struggle with food and with extreme fitness.
I'll probably try to gain weight and get at least to the 200-pound marker. Still something in there I still feel like I would have to be big a little bit. I do feel, I don't know, yeah.
Do you ever eat chicken and rice now?
Not chicken thighs. I'm totally burnt on chicken thighs. Rice is fine. I love rice.
Gibson.
Earlier this year on eating disorders in men, young men want to get big. For some, it's becoming an obsession. The gym is constantly on Deshelle Fredrickson's mind. The 16-year-old works out religiously every day, sometimes for up to 3 hours a day. The gym is all I can think about during the day. I wake up, I'm thinking about the gym. I'm brushing my teeth, I'm thinking about the gym. And once I'm finally at the gym, I'm kind of set and I'm happy. Despite all this effort to hone his physique, despite his friends telling him how good he looks when Fredrickson looks in the mirror, he thinks he looks horrible. Body dissatisfaction among young people is on the rise, and clinicians like Dr. Jason Nagata say it's a trend that's starting to affect more boys. That's challenging a long-held tendency in medicine and more broadly by society to associate body image concerns mainly with girls. Nagata, an eating disorder researcher at the University of California, San Francisco, says negative body image issues or attitudes in boys often stem from the feeling that they aren't muscular enough. A small share of those young men develop an obsession with getting bigger and more muscular, also called bigorexia. It occurs when someone is preoccupied or even obsessed with the idea that they don't have enough muscularity. In many cases, an individual's build is actually normal or even objectively muscular. Fredrickson doesn't see himself that way and hasn't been diagnosed with bigorexia. He says he has body dysmorphia, though he's never been diagnosed with that either. Bigorexia was first described in a 1993 case report of 9 large and muscular bodybuilders who became so preoccupied with working out that they declined social invitations, refused to be seen at the beach, or wore heavy clothes during the summer, fearing they looked too small in normal clothing. A few dozen research articles were published after the original report, but bigorexia remained relatively understudied until recently, according to Nagata. While it's hard to measure how many boys have bigorexia, eating disorders in young men are a growing problem. I was trying to find a new therapist a couple years ago. I was building rapport with a new male therapist who's older. I mentioned I might have a problem with binge eating. Bro didn't know what to do with that and decided to tell me about good places to eat. Yeah, I mean, not all therapists are going to be the best fit, and I think that is reflective of how understudied this is and how underacknowledged this is as a problem that affects boys and men. For many people, the fact that boys and men have body image pressures is completely not on their radar. When we get referrals for boys and men with muscle dysmorphia, there's often a long delay in referral and diagnosis. 3 major pressures, family, peers, and the media, contribute to the rise of muscle dysmorphia and men's desire to build muscle. Across multiple studies, the last variable is the most significant predictor of muscle dysmorphia. Fredrickson's social media feeds are filled with content from bodybuilders whose idealized Greek god bodies remind him of what he'd like to look like one day. My friends were sending me videos on Instagram, and they were like, oh, this guy looks insane. I started to compare myself with these adults. It kind of made me lose a lot of self-confidence. George Mycock experienced symptoms of bigorexia in his early 20s. No, Mycock. In his early 20s, and now studies the condition as a graduate student at the University of Worcester in England. He points to the inherent design of social media as an important driver of these trends. Okay, so yes, but what I'm interested in examining and talking about are the cultural and political indicators. How this is a reflection of, say, a morally puritanical culture with a rise in fascism, with right-wing ideals, with this emphasis on self-control and discipline, and how there is a superiority to maintaining these very rigorous extreme standards. So it's not enough to just look at how social media can really emphasize these dangerous trends and how algorithmically, if you click on one thing, then you're being fed, your entire feed now looks like this. But looking at how this is socio-economically related, how this is a rise in, or, this is a result of cultural shifts. You tend to gain more social and monetary capital if the images and stuff you're putting out are more extreme, and then so much more extra extreme body ideals get put out. Bulking and cutting to sculpt perfect muscles. The obsession with muscularity drove Mike Hawk to the edge as he became fixated on working out. During this period, he cycled through what bodybuilders term the bulking phases, where he ate more to build muscle, and cutting phases, cycles of trying to lose weight to help bring out muscle definition. He'd weigh every meal to avoid gaining any weight, forcing himself to vomit and spiraling into suicidal thoughts. All of his training, it wasn't enough. I just felt like my body could be a symbol of how masculine I was. Physically, the condition can be invisible, in contrast to disorders like anorexia, where patients can have a very low body weight and look visibly thin. It's not always the case, just bear in mind. That's why when bigorexia was first described, it was called reverse anorexia. It's really hard to tell if someone has muscle dysmorphia just by looking at them. There may be people who are from a range of body sizes, weights, and shapes who experience muscle dysmorphia. Yeah. Those with the condition are more at risk of disordered eating, steroid use, and suicidal ideation. When disordered eating becomes severe, patients can be hospitalized, and a growing share of those patients are now boys, according to a longitudinal study in Canada. The authors of that study say there's a pressing need to educate clinicians about the trend. Nagata estimated that a third of teenage boys in the U.S. are trying to bulk up, but how many can go on to develop bigorexia is harder to pin down. That challenge stems from a lack of awareness of the condition, which was first added to the DSM, a handbook used by clinicians to diagnose mental health conditions, in 2013. Diagnosing young men with bigorexia is also difficult because they're less likely to seek out help, and experts disagree on how to diagnose it. When bigorexia was first added to the DSM, it was classified as a body dysmorphic disorder, a condition causing someone to obsess over perceived flaw in their appearance, which doesn't account for the disruptive eating seen in bigorexia. That discrepancy complicates diagnosis. For instance, someone showing signs of an eating disorder can't be diagnosed with bigorexia because eating disorders and body dysmorphic disorders are considered mutually exclusive. That's why in a recent paper, Nagata argued for bigorexia to be recognized as an eating disorder. While researchers continue to debate this distinction, it's clear that certain groups like transgender men are more at risk. Biologically, they may have appearance factors that are more feminine, and they're trying to change that so they feel like they're in a more masculine body. There's added sort of hoops that they have to go through to get this sort of muscular build. Fredrickson admitted that he thinks about his physique nearly every day, calling it mentally exhausting. You just kind of tell your brain to shut up, he said, but it just gets annoying telling yourself you need to look better, you need to cut, you need to bulk, you need to stay at where you are. Despite these pressures, the teen feels supported by his family and medical providers and has noticed exercise has had positive effects. I feel a lot more confident with myself. It's easier to run around, easier to do things. I'm not out of breath as quickly. But this doesn't ring true for all of his peers, some of whom he have said started using steroids to look better as fast as possible. They tell me they just hated what they looked like and they wanted to look better quick. Though exercise is beneficial and many kids in the U.S. aren't getting enough of it, the dangers of bigorexia can be life-threatening. But public health messaging often fails to mention how much exercise is too much for kids. There are so many teenage boys in my gym. Not that like when I was in high school, teenage boys weren't going to the gym, but it's astonishing how many people at the gym are boys who seem like they're in high school, and ostensibly they are they're if they're playing sports, they're in the gym, they're working out associated with the sports that they play, or just lifting weights via gym class, and then on top of that spending hours at the gym, like a gym separate from the high school gym. I always talk about the fact that people refer to exercise as like the wonder drug. Like with every drug, there's a tab that talks about side effects and addiction issues. And I think there's this idea that if you're going to be addicted to something, then it's better to be addicted to things that are healthy. But that is misunderstanding the issues here because it's not healthy. That's the point. It can become a dangerous addiction and it then becomes unhealthy. I think the link between body image and politics is very clear when you look at a lot of the 4chan type memes the far right uses online, like the cartoons of chatified versions of white men being compared to ugly versions of people of color to emphasize perceived racial superiority. Yeah, I mean, even seeing like, look, I understand the kind of oh, take care of yourself because Nazis are going to the gym type mentality of, hey, make sure that you are caring for your physical and mental health. And the gym can, fitness can be a really great way to tackle both of those. But sometimes it veers into territory of like, oh, this is what is being pushed in these more extreme political circles, right? Spaces online that are associated with the right, and seeing that kind of being done on the left, it's veering into dangerous territory, and a lot of like comparisons of, this is very online shit, but people who will compare how right-wingers look to how leftists look. There's like a competition of aesthetics. And I know sometimes it's not maybe something that seems serious and it's just what people do on the internet, but obviously this is affecting, this addiction and disordered eating is affecting people across the spectrum. Yeah, even the fucking New York Times article, a progressive mind in a MAGA body. What? What? Thank God they changed that. It's making something that should be a healthy thing into something that's extremely unhealthy. Yeah. Of like, hey, leftists, you should be spending all this time in the gym. It's like, no, actually. There's a moderation, okay? And this can absolutely be a distraction for anyone of any political ideology. Like, we should organize. Yeah. You can't organize. You can't be effectively challenging power if you're so focused on aesthetics. If you're so focused on like spending hours and hours and hours in the gym and making sure that you are only eating chicken and rice. Unless you're organizing at the gym, unless you're organizing at the gym, unless you are raising class consciousness next to the free weights. There's an epidemic of dysmorphia, and social media is influencing it heavily. My 12-year-old nephew obsesses over shit. He and others his age are already feeling the adult pressures of like they're failing and not doing enough and all the grind set aesthetics bullshit. Yeah. So look, it's about not doing something in excess. And that's why too I talk about not contributing to this culture of shame and these really, really extreme standards via like body shaming on the internet, which people do all the time. And I think there's kind of a moralizing around it where it's fine if someone has bad politics, but we're not talking about that individual and their bad politics. We're talking about how this overall is influencing our culture. When we still are emphasizing fat phobia, when we are still tying like moral goodness to weight, to, beauty, where, oh, this is how you age when you're unproblematic, right? Having less wrinkles being tied to how good your politics are or like how morally sound you are, that is all reinforcing these standards. And it's not taken seriously because I don't think a lot of people see how it's participating in that, where it's like, oh, please, you're being too much. Let us have our fun. I'm the fun police. I'm the fun police up in here. Stop posting my gym progress when I realized I was no longer doing it for myself, but seeking external validation, then realized even that wasn't cutting it anymore. And look, it's okay to want to feel good and to be proud of taking care of yourself and trying to treat your body and your mind in as healthy of a way as you can, right? To take care of you, but it just understanding, being aware of how it can veer into dangerous territory. And I think it's totally human to desire validation and to feel good about validation, but it's when when you become obsessed with it, and when it's then never enough because you're not actually treating yourself kindly. And so no amount of validation, external validation, is going to suffice. An example of rugged individualism. Yeah, it's all at play. So anyway, okay. I think that's what I got on that for now.